Speak on the show 2022, episode 16, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's get the show on and go. Let's roll. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving out to the God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. We're back, y'all. We're back. We're back. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific is what we do here every Saturday morning on the Speak On the show. Let's get these formalities out the way because I got some information I need to pass on. rwcoolins.com. That's the website. RW Coolins on all social media platforms. You can go there, follow the show, share the show, do what you do with all the other things you may watch. Just get people involved. Let's get people involved doing what we do here on the Speak On the show every Saturday morning. We're broadcasting live on YouTube and Facebook this morning, as we always do. Click on there, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the Facebook page, and then just keep coming in. Keep doing what we do. Keep doing what we do. Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Just keep doing what we do. Keep doing what we do. Call in number 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. When you come in to the show, if you got a comment, you want to post it. If you got the good mornings coming in, if you got a comment about something I'm talking about, feel free. That's what we do here. We come in as friends, we leave as family. That's what we do here. OT, my brother, good morning. Good morning. Keep doing your thing, bro. Keep doing your thing. All right. Oh, after the show, you can download this on Spreaker.com and Apple iTunes for the audio if you just want to hear the audio rather than the video. So you can go there and do that. Last week, Memorial Day weekend, the start of summer, the unofficial start of summer, 101 critical days of summer. That's what we kick in. It runs from Memorial Day all the way to July 4th. That's what we do. Watch out for your kids, the swimming, the ones on the bikes, all the different things you can think about. TC, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. All the different things you can think about. The kids are out of school. Everything's going on. A lot of things going on where we're out traveling and doing things. So make sure you're being safe while you're out there. I know we're getting having little get-togethers and gatherings and all that. Don't drink and drive and all the different safety things you can think about. Summer, let's keep that intact. So today is a straight talk, no chaser Saturday. Straight talk, no chaser. I'm gonna give it to you straight. I need it. I don't know if you need something to take it down with it. I left my water out of here. I don't know what I did with it, but that's all right. We're gonna be all right. So let's go ahead and get started. January 6th committee. The January 6th committee. We're there, y'all. We're there. June 9th, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, Central Time. Y'all can do the math for where Central Mountain, whatever the times are in there. We always do Pacific. It's not that we leaving y'all out. It's just too much to calculate all the way across. But the January 6th committee is going to hold hearings starting June 9th about the insurrection on the Capitol. They're saying they got a lot of information they're going to pass on. We're going to learn a lot. Every week, good morning, sis. Good morning. Appreciate your support. OT, get the popcorn ready. Yeah. Just a little bit of popcorn. You ain't got to get a whole bag. Just a little bit this moment. But the January 6th committee is saying that they got some things that they want to express and tell from their investigation to the American public. Now, it says the committee will present previously unseen material documenting January 6th, receive witness testimony, preview additional hearings, and provide the American people a summary of its findings about the coordinated multi-step effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election and prevent the transfer of power. The first hearing will be a broad overview of the panel's 10-month investigation and set the stage for subsequent hearings, which are expected to cover certain topics or themes. And this is what sources told CNN. Now, I don't care what political affiliation you may be associated with, Republican, Democrat, Independent, non-voter, whatever you may be, that's your choice. But I will say this. This investigation that has been going on about January 6th, I will tell anybody and everybody who is a United States citizen to pay attention to these hearings. And the reason I say pay attention to these hearings is because I want people to watch it so they truly understand what happened leading up to January 6th from the time we all went out to the polls back in November 3rd of last year, or whenever it was, you know when it was. Because there was a lot of working parts behind the scenes by President at the time, Donald Trump, advisors of Donald Trump, lawyers for Donald Trump, and those who support Donald Trump, as well as senators and congressmen in our Senate and Congress who are sworn to uphold the oath of the Constitution and chose to go against everything that was ever written by the forefathers, so they say, that they always want to talk about, in order to keep a person in power that they felt they wanted to keep in power no matter what you or me as American citizens went to the polls to make our choice heard. Now, in all these things that I've been hearing coming out about this committee and what's going on with this investigation, I still do not hear or have not heard or have not seen evidence of what they call widespread fraud, voter fraud during the election. You see a pocket here, you see a pocket there. No more, and the FBI said this, not R.W. Coons, but the FBI said this. You had seen any more fraud in this election than you've seen in any other election. The other problem I have with this that we're going to find out with this January 6th committee, why is it that with all over the United States, everybody went out and voted? The only fraud that they want to concentrate on, per se, that was done, was dealt with the president's election. Not the not the senators that ran, not the congressmen that ran, not the local mayors, not the local government, not the local sheriffs, not anybody down the ballot was affected by this widespread voter fraud that they per se happened. This investigation is going to expose a lot of things about our government. Let's just be real now. It's going to expose a lot of things about our government that a lot of us didn't think, or probably thought, but never thought it would come to fruition. That these things would happen within the United States of America soil. These things that happened on January 6th for this riot, this insurrection, those people to rush the Capitol, hurting police officers, injuring people, one person got shot and killed, and so on and so forth, was a result of planning since the election happened in November. So all the things that happened January 6th was a culmination of everything that happened on election day and prior to, when they were yelling that there was going to be fraud if the president didn't win re-election. As I said in the beginning of this, I think everyone, I don't care who you are, party affiliation, whatever, you need to pay attention to this, because this can expose a lot of things of what goes on behind the scenes that we don't know about. It will open your eyes to the fact of how important your vote is in going to the polls. And it will also expose to you why I continually tell you to look down the ballot. Look throughout the whole ballot, not just one person on the ballot, or just because you're Republican, vote totally Republican or vote totally Democrat. No, you need to do your research. And here's another disturbing part. It doesn't go into the January 6th part, but it's disturbing. Oh, I got good morning. Hold on. Leah Phillips, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support. Thanks for tuning in. Keep doing what you're doing. So, with that, I just read this yesterday, and I didn't print it out because I want to get more information, but it's something I want to make you aware of. In Florida right now, let's talk about Florida first, and then I got another one. But in Florida right now, you have members of the so-called Proud Boys. You remember those guys that were doing the insurrection and protecting Roger Stone with the Oath Keepers and all that? Proud Boys. The Proud Boys have infiltrated the Florida legislature. Let me say that one more time for you if you don't understand what I'm saying. The Proud Boys have put people in the legislature in Florida to help impose their will on what the government is doing in Florida. This is what I talked about, where you don't know who's running for these offices unless you do your research. Members of this organization called the Proud Boys are now infiltrating the government legislature in Florida at the local level. Remember, I kept saying at the local level. And if they're doing it in Florida, I guarantee, as Charles Barkley would say, I guarantee it's happening in other places throughout this United States where you have people infiltrating government legislature at the state and at the state, county, city levels to try to impose their will. Another thing I've seen, I can't remember what city it was, they're also putting certain people on voting boards, the ones that are going to be at the polls. They're putting these people in play to try to hold you back from being able to vote in the manner that you've always been able to vote, because they're trying to impose their will to come for the outcome to be who they want it to be, not the voice of the people. We need to pay attention to this stuff because I'm telling you, this is becoming and could become quickly a dictatorship, because none of the people at the levels that they are now in the government are doing anything to stop these things that are going on. Why? Probably because they're involved. I don't know. I can't say for a fact. However, let's talk about this as I transition. Any of y'all heard about the Green Bay sweep? Not about the Green Bay Packers. I'm talking about the government Green Bay sweep. Yesterday, Peter Navarro, who was a Trump White House advisor, was arrested for contempt of Congress after he refused to cooperate with the January 6th committee's investigation. He faces 2 contempt counts, one for his failure to produce documents demanded by the committee and the other for failing to show up for subpoenaed testimony before House investigators. Now, this guy, Peter Navarro, who was an advisor, went on a TV show on MSNBC with Ari Melber, and he explained in detail what the Green Bay sweep was and what they were trying to do to overturn the election by having, and I'll get into that a little deeper in a minute because these are 2 different things. The Green Bay sweep and what I'm going to talk about next are 2 different things, but they had the same outcome as what they wanted. But the Green Bay sweep basically was telling Mike Pence to go up there and deny everything that came in that was in favor of Joe Biden and what states he won, and overturn them and say that they wouldn't accept those electors. They wanted other electors to be able to put Donald Trump in office. Now, I don't know how that works. I don't know how all that works with the electors and everything. But what I'm trying to get you to understand and put in layman's terms, no matter who you voted for, right, wrong, indifferent, they were trying to make it seem like it didn't matter because they wanted to impose their will of who they wanted in office, because that's what they chose to do and that's what they wanted. You had many people working on this, on these efforts in this United States to put a president back in office who wasn't duly elected by the people. Peter Navarro had claimed he was unable to cooperate because former President Trump had asserted executive privilege in the matter. The committee had countered those arguments by citing that many of the topics it wanted to discuss with him, he had already written about in great detail in his book. He also said, and I quote, when he got out of jail yesterday, after he was released and he went through the proceedings and everything, this is what he said. The FBI publicly humiliated him by handcuffing him as he was boarding a flight, threw him in a cell, and put him in leg irons. They humiliated him while he was trying to board a flight. Sound like privilege to me if you got an attitude about that, because at the end of the day, you knew there was a subpoena for you to show. You chose not to show. They put a warrant out for your arrest and they arrested you. But you have a problem with the fact on how they arrested you. Let's dig into that. You know how many people in this United States of America are arrested forcibly, unknowingly, because they don't know what charge they did? You knew you had charges against you. You knew they were looking for you. But there's been many people who have been incarcerated, handcuffed, shackled, and all those type things throughout the history of this United States of America that didn't even commit the crime that they were being charged for. And now you are saying that they humiliated you because you were boarding a flight. Man, please, give me a break with that. You tried to overthrow the government. Let's just be honest. And you think they're supposed to handle you with kid gloves? Come on. Texas Republican Louis Gohmert, for all y'all that are in Texas, Louis Gohmert, he objected to Navarro's arrest, but not on the grounds that he believes Navarro is innocent. Rather, Louis Gohmert, who is a Texas Republican, I think he's in the Senate, he said, and I quote, "If you're a Republican, you can't even lie to Congress or lie to an FBI agent, or they are coming after you." Let me I don't think y'all picking up what I'm putting down here. Let me repeat that for you one more time. This is a Republican senator who said, if you're a Republican, you can't even lie to Congress or lie to an FBI agent, or they are coming after you. So what you're basically saying is, James Battle, good morning, my brother, good morning. Talking about your people in Texas right now. Louis Gohmert is saying that if you're a Republican, you should be able to lie. There should be no consequences to you lying to the FBI or Congress. And they shouldn't treat you like that because you shouldn't be treated that way. If you're a Republican, you're the only one that can't lie. Oh, suffice to say, lying to Congress is a crime. And yes, lying to the FBI is also a crime. And if a normal citizen doesn't either, they would definitely come for you. But if Gohmert wants to do it so bad, we certainly won't stand in his way. This is America. Chase your dreams. This is what the article said. So they don't have a problem. They don't have a problem with people that are in positions like them lying to the FBI, lying to Congress, not following the rules of the road as far as what the laws say or anything like that, because they feel they're above the law. And they say this openly. They do it openly. And these are the people, and I want you to listen very closely here. People like Louis Gohmert, Peter Navarro, who was a Trump advisor. These are the same people who continue to do the same things behind the scenes: corruption, crime, tax evasion, all these different things you can think about. The people in this mix are all involved in those type things. But they feel that they're above the law and shouldn't be held accountable. Just like the person they tried to keep in office, Donald Trump. Keep an eye on these hearings that are coming up. And people will say, you've heard these things about, oh, it's illegitimate. It's not a legitimate committee because of this, because of that, and all this kind of stuff. When you try to delegitimize any type of oversight on the government, that tells me everything I need to know. Because I want people to understand something. Back when Hillary Clinton sat for hours and hours about the Benghazi situation that she totally had nothing to do with, but they wanted to make a point so she wouldn't be elected by president, which a lot of you fell into the okie doke of what they did to make her seem like this bad person, that she was responsible for this, that, whatever. But for all you to fail for that okie doke about what Hillary Clinton supposedly was involved in and wasn't involved in and all these different things, these are the results of what we're seeing now. They led you to believe that she was this bad person because they knew she was primed and ready to be the first female president of this United States. And they planted those seeds all the way up until that election to prevent you, the normal everyday citizen, from understanding what type of job they were doing, the hit job they were doing on her. Now, I'm not saying I'm a Hillary Clinton fan, but the way they went about it was wrong. And if you can't see that, you're blind to the fact, or you just don't want to see it because you don't like her. Because you don't like her. Because what they did to Hillary Clinton by preventing her from running, or by preventing her from becoming president of the United States, or having a solid chance of becoming president, is the same thing they did to try to get people to see that Donald Trump should be voted in for a second term. They planted the seeds over and over again, and they're doing it right now. James Battle, the district he represents, will continue electing him. He will never lose because of his gerrymandered district. Gerrymandering is a big problem. That's why these people still get voted in, because they readjusted these district lines so their constituents are the specific ones that they want voting for them in their districts. You know, it's sad. It's sad. But it's the way that they're able to gerrymander and redistrict these zones for these people to continue to stay in power. And we sit on the sidelines, and I say we because I'm a part of the problem. We sit on the sidelines and see these things happening, but we don't stand up and do anything as a collective unit. We have individuals, me, other folks, or whatever. We speak on these things, we talk about these things, but as a collective unit, we don't do the will of the people because we can't get on the same page. Because if somebody likes Donald Trump but sees the same problem, but see there's going to be a problem if they go with the problem to try to fix it because it's going to affect Donald Trump, they're not going to do that. It's the same thing on the Democratic side. But if we all look at it clearly, taking the party affiliation out of it, of who we like better or whatever, and look at the big scope of what this United States is supposed to be about and what our freedoms are and what we have the power to do, a lot would change. But because we don't impose our will and get these people out of there that we know are corrupt, these things continue to happen. Attorney Kenneth Cheeseborough sent an email to former New York Mayor and Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani on December 13th, 2020, with detailed plans that would put then Vice President Mike Pence and Senate President pro tempore Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, in central roles in the Congress joint session. The email subject line read, brief notes on President of the Senate strategy. According to the email revealed via a recent court filing by the House January 6th committee in his legal fight against Trump attorney John Eastman, Cheeseborough wanted Pence to recuse himself from his constitutional position as president of the Senate and the presiding officer over the joint session and claim a conflict of interest by way of being a candidate on the ballot in question. Pence ultimately did preside over the final certification of the Electoral College votes and resisted pressure from Trump and his allies to block Joe Biden's victory. Once recused, the email continued, Grassley or another senior Republican majority member will become the presiding officer of the joint session and begin the election certification. Citing the possibility of a set of alternate electors, the memo continues that the new presiding officer of the Senate then opens the two envelopes from Arizona and announces that he cannot and will not, at least as of that date, count any Electoral College votes from Arizona because there are two slates of votes. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but let me just break it down for you. This plan, in conjunction with what they were trying to do with the Green Bay sweep, this plan was to have Mike Pence step down because of a conflict of interest because he was on the ballot, to allow them to put Republican Chuck Grassley or another central role Republican in the position that Mike Pence would have sat there to certify the votes from each state. And once they recognized Arizona, which was the first state They were going to say that they couldn't and will not count those votes because there's two different sets of electors, because they had appointed electors outside of who the real electors were in order to say who the votes were for that state. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but I'm trying to give you the basics of it. So when you're listening on, June 9th, like I know all y'all going to listen to, because RW Coolers told you to. But when you're listening on June 9th, this is not, you got a kind of an idea on what this is all about. So you had lawyers behind the scene working ways that they can manipulate the Constitution as it's written to put people in power to say, no, this is not how we're going to do it. This is the way it's supposed to be done, and all that kind of stuff, to impose their will on over the will of the people by the votes in each one of these states. Following the hypothetical dispute in the joint session of Congress, the presiding officer would then offer Arizona three options: redo the election, ask for a federal judicial review, or have the Republican state legislature appoint its own electors according to the memo. Cheeseborough wrote that his interpretation of the Constitution's 12th Amendment gave the presiding officer of the joint session enormous leverage to enact whatever remedies deemed fit. The memo also advised members of the Senate Judiciary Committee to lay the groundwork for the president of the Senate strategy in advance of January 6th by conducting hearings during which certain scholars could promote the power of the presiding officer. These are all things that were going on behind the scenes that now are finally starting to come to light. And my question would be this. We're hearing about these things now because there was a January 6th insurrection committee put together because of what happened on January 6th and the extent of what happened. But what causes me to pause and really start asking questions about this is the fact that if they took these efforts this time because they didn't get their will or it didn't go through, so it was exposed because of the people that were on the outside decided to act a damn fool. So it kind of delayed and caused more of a problem for them to be able to implement their plan. What type of things are going on a daily basis that we never hear about that go with that same type of mentality that they're going to manipulate these things to benefit whoever they want it to benefit rather than the will of the people? I ask that question because you can't tell me, you cannot tell me that January 6th and what happened on January 6th and what's being exposed right now has never happened before. Maybe not to the full extent, but you can't tell me it hasn't happened before. You can't tell me that these things haven't been in place for people to try to do these things to overthrow what we know as, our political will, the will of the people. You can't tell me. This was on a broader scale. January 9th. Pay attention. Watch and listen to the players involved in this. Listen to the players involved in this whole process. I would say you'd be surprised, but I don't think we will. I don't think we will. Let's transition. Kentucky Democrat Senate candidate Charles Booker. Let's talk about Charles Booker. Charles Booker's running against Rand Paul down there in Kentucky. I don't know Charles Booker. Let's start there. I don't know him. I've seen him. I don't know him. I got hopes for him to be able to beat Rand Paul. Because you got these people that have been in there too long. We need some new blood in there, new thoughts and everything. But then I pause for a minute. Because I think Charles Booker, I understand what he wanted to say. I understand what he was trying to say. But the way he went about saying it, Charles Booker, 38, put out an ad this week. And then with his latest ad, it had a content warning. And it said, following the warning, there was footage of a noose hanging from a tree. And one in front of the U.S. Capitol building can be seen while Booker, who is Black, speaks in a voiceover. The pain of our past persists to this day. In Kentucky, like many states throughout the South, lynching was a tool of terror True statement. He said it was used to kill my ancestors. And Booker says he went on to note that he made history when he secured the Democratic nomination for the Senate, the first black person to do so in the state of Kentucky. But here's where he lost a lot of people. In the ad, when they finally showed him after they did the voiceover, showing all the lynchings and all this stuff, Charles Booker showed up on the camera in the ad with a noose around his neck. Now, I understand, like I said, I understand the point he might have been trying to make. But I think he went overboard when he decided to put the noose around his neck compared to the verbiage that he was using and just showing what has happened in the past. And what he was doing this for was to show, because Rand Paul voted against the George Floyd lynching bill. He voted against it the first time. He eventually voted for it the second time around, but the first time he voted against it. That's what Charles Booker's running against and saying that Rand Paul was against the George Floyd lynching act at the time. But to put the noose around his neck, I understand the shock value, but sometimes shock value causes devalue. Sometimes shock value causes devalue. It has devalued everything you've said up to that point. I understand the plight of our people. You know, you've heard me talk about the lynchings and the nooses hanging in different places. The symbolisms come up here and there and everything. And yes, we need to talk about that. But when you're running for a position in the state of Kentucky and you already know that you're the first ever African American to secure the Democratic vote, I don't think it is very wise to come on camera with a noose around your neck. Now, I'm not saying he's going to lose voters because he probably didn't have that many in Kentucky anyway. But what I am saying is sometimes we need to think it through. We need to think it through when we do things like this. The narrative of what happened to our ancestors and why Rand Paul didn't vote for the George Floyd lynching act and all that kind of stuff, I think was enough. The noose was a little bit too much, in my opinion. Some people may have seen it and said, hey. But at the end of the day, we have to. Charles Booker, I'm just going to say it this way. Good luck. That's all I'm going to say tonight. Good luck. I hope that people can see what you're trying to do through your policies and processes rather than the shock value of what you're trying to do and how you will be a good replacement for Rand Paul for Kentucky's representation. That's what I'm going to say. I don't want to beat you down because of the tactics you chose to use and anything like that. But at the end of the day, what are your policies? What policies do you have that are different than Rand Paul that's going to make people in Kentucky feel comfortable voting you in? That's where I think you need to go. Leave the news at home next time. I'm just saying, leave it home. Leave it home. Leave it out your campaign. Talk about it, but you don't have to wear it. You don't have to wear it. It's just my thought. You know, you heard me talk about many times on here racism, and I'm not going to stop. Let's just be real. I'm not going to stop because it's there. We need to address it. I think the biggest thing about racism is the less we talk about it, the more it happens. The more we talk about it, the more people get uncomfortable and maybe change will come. Just my thoughts. Racism is alive and well. We see it. We hear it. People can say it's not. Come on, let's be real. But nobody, I don't think anybody would have ever thought that there would be racism involved in Star Wars. Everybody knows Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, all that kind of stuff. But this week, Star Wars came out with a new movie. Well, last week, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's a new series. And one of the lead people in there is a female named Moses Ingram, who's African-American. She's playing Reva Savander, one of Darth Vader's inquisitors tasked with hunting down the Jedi. The star described a torrent of threatening and racist messages on Instagram. One said that her days are numbered Another branded her diversity hire. Other messages use the N-word. Let me stop right there for a minute. Oh, boy. Kamiko Soul King, good morning. Good morning. Appreciate the support. What's up, cuz? You're an actor. You try out for a role. You get the role. You're excited about this role. It's a groundbreaking role that you're about to play as an actor in one of the biggest franchises of movies ever made. Star Wars. You can argue it if you want. Star Wars was a big franchise of movies. Let's just be real. And in your excitement and everything you do, your professionalism, you get on that screen and you do your best. And then the movie comes out. And when the movie comes out, there are certain pockets in these United States of America and around the world, let's just be real, that have a problem with you, not your acting skills, not the role you played, but how you looked in your natural essence. And they don't feel you should have been cast for that role. Let me digress for a minute, and then I'll get back to this. Everybody's heard and everybody knows James Bond 007. 007 has been around a long, long time. All the movies, you can go back, there's many, many. You can look it up if you want to. Been many 007s that have played that role. There was a conversation at one time about Idris Elba. All right, all you ladies, don't be screaming all loud right now when I say his name, but Idris Elba. They thought he would be cast and should be cast as the next 007 at one time. When I can't remember his name, was getting ready to step down, the newest one. And there was an uproar of even the thought of Idris Elba being 007. Not because he don't have the acting chops, not because he's not English citizen, British citizen, whichever one you want to use. Not that he doesn't have the accent, because he does. He just knows how to turn it on and off, depending on the role he plays. But they were upset because they said, we don't need a black 007. Not that the concept of what 007 was all about was going to change. Not that what they call it. Not that the whole catalog of 007 movies and films or whatever is going to change. The only thing that was going to change was the skin tone, the melanin content of the person playing a fictional character, James Bond 007. So I wasn't shocked when I seen this about Mrs. Ingram. But it just made me think back to when 007, when they were talking about Idris Elba being James Bond. So it just shows you that no matter how much people talk about there's no racism, it truly exists. It exists in our everyday life. Hell, it even exists in the fact of who they want to play certain characters in certain movies. And she's not the first one that got attacked on Star Wars. British actors, black British actors, John Boyega, Andy Newton, Kenyan Mexican actor Lupita Nyong'o, have all stepped into the Star Wars universe in recent years. Kelly Marie Tran, who became the first Asian American actress to land a major Star Wars role, says she too was targeted by trolls on social media and deleted all of her Instagram posts in 2018, leading to speculation that the abuse she faced online was the catalyst. Boyega, who was in the last Star Wars, said he faced death threats during his time playing former Stormtrooper Finn. He delivered an impassioned speech in front of thousands at a huge Black Lives Matter protest in London's Hyde Park in 2020, following the death of George Floyd. This is what he said. I need you to understand how painful it is to be reminded every day that your race means nothing. The actor said before telling crowds around him, I don't know if I'm going to have a career after this. Mrs. Moses Ingram says she felt there's nothing anybody can do to stop this hate and that the comments were fueling self-doubt. I questioned my purpose in even being here in front of you saying that this is happening. I think the thing that bothers me is this feeling that I've had inside of myself, which no one has told me, but this feeling that I've just got to shut up and take it, that I've just got to grin and bear it. And I'm not built like that. But she thanked her fans for supporting. You know, as I've said many times on here, I don't like having to continually bring to the forefront these acts of racism in pockets that are being reported that a lot of people seem to skim over because once it says racism, they don't want to talk about it and all these type things. But you can't confront what you choose to deny. You cannot confront what you choose to deny. And I will not deny the fact that racism exists in this United States of America, around this world, no matter on what soil you want to talk about. Racism is alive and well. The problem I have is we're in denial. Some folks are in denial. They choose to use the fact of being in denial to get everybody on this page that racism is not as big as we make it out to seem. That racism is not an issue in this country. That racism, if you, and we'll get into this a little later. But if you have a problem with who's playing a role in a movie as an actor because of their skin tone, you're racist. There's no way around it. You're racist. Now, if you say you don't like the actor who played the role, that's one thing. There's been certain roles I've seen play, and I say, you know, who would have been, somebody might have been better playing that role. But when you have a problem because of the content of a person's melanin, being in a certain position or playing a certain role in a movie, and you want to put it all out there and then go attack the person who was hired to play the role because you don't agree with it, you're going after the wrong person. You're going after the wrong person. You're showing your true colors of how you feel about people of color. And Brian Hoodie just took the words out of my mouth because I was about to go here. You know, back when Star Wars first came out, when Billy D. Williams played Lando Calrissian, you never, ever heard any problem with the role he played in the Star Wars, in those ones that he was in. And he was in all of them back in the day in some form or fashion, whether his role was big, whether his role was small. You never heard anybody have a problem with James Earl Jones doing the voiceover for Darth Vader. Never heard anything about that. But in today's society, you have people that feel comfortable enough to speak out because of their hatred and their lack of understanding that this is a role. This is a role that someone's playing. They were cast into the role because they were the best person for the role. Had nothing to do with color. Had nothing to do with color. At one time, you would have thought that Chewbacca, I'm gonna get into the characters real quick. You could have thought that Chewbacca was the blackest person on the scene on Star Wars, unless you watched it and knew that Billy D. Williams played Lando Calrissian, who was a big had a big role in it back in the day. But this just shows how ignorant people are, how ignorant they choose to be, and how they pick and choose what they want to be upset about. They ain't worrying about what happened with the insurrection, but they worrying about a black woman having a lead role in a Star Wars movie. They worrying about Idris Elba maybe being cast as 007 James Bond because of the history of the position. But the insurrection on the Capitol can take away your freedoms they don't really care about, because they're on the side of the person who they were trying to put back in. So let's go to another part that has hypocrisy all over it. San Francisco baseball Giants manager, and I quote, I don't plan on coming out for the anthem going forward until I feel better about the direction of our country. I don't plan on coming out for the national anthem going forward until I feel better about the direction of our country. San Francisco Giants manager Gabe Kapler told reporters last week, let me say that again. He told reporters last week that he would not be coming out during the national anthem until he feels better about our country. And what he quoted was, I don't plan on coming out for the anthem going forward until I feel better about the direction of the company. The 2020 National League Manager of the Year's comments were accompanied by a written statement on his website sharing his thoughts after 19 children and 2 adults were killed at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, by a lone 18-year-old gunman. In a blog post, Kapler questioned whether the country's leadership is committed to representing his people's best interests and whether the United States is truly the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let me repeat that one time because I think you really need to hear this now. Kapler questioned whether the country's leadership is committed to representing its people's best interests and whether the United States is truly the land of the free and home of the brave. White baseball manager says he's not coming out for the national anthem until he feels better about this country and what we're doing. And then he makes this statement. And then he went on to say, we weren't given bravery and we aren't free. Police on the scene put a mother in handcuffs as she begged them to go in and save her children. They blocked parents trying to organize to charge in to stop the shooter, including the father who learned his daughter was murdered while he argued with the cops. We aren't free when politicians decide that the lobbyists and gun industries are more important than our children's freedom to go to school without needing bulletproof backpacks and active shooter drills. Later, Kaplan wrote about his disillusionment of what he called the lack of delivery of the promise of what our national anthem represents. James Battle, Herschel Walker said racism doesn't exist and we shouldn't be teaching CTR, whatever that is, CTR. Herschel Walker, we're going to get into him as this election gets closer. That's another conversation, but but let's get back to Kapler. Kaepernick. Kapler's the San Francisco Giants manager. Colin Kaepernick played for the San Francisco 49ers at the time. Something about that air up in San Francisco make them speak out. Kapler's talking about the government not wanting to do things. They're in bed with the lobbyists and everything. Colin Kaepernick said about being an oppressed people here in this country. Colin Kaepernick took a knee. He just said he's not coming out. But there are many people who haven't even heard about Kapler's stance. There's many people that haven't been reporting about Kapler's stance, why he's not coming out for the national anthem. It's not national news. It's not over the place. The pundits in the sports media aren't talking about what he decided to do. But Colin Kaepernick was vilified on every channel, was beat down, tore down, called every name in the book because of the stance he decided to take, which is no different than the stance he took. And he went on to say, and I quote, his disillusionment with what he called the lack of delivery of the promise of what our national anthem represents. Sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? Because I don't care how you word it. If you take what Colin Kaepernick was saying at the time and what Kapler's saying at this time, it's the same verbiage coming from a different messenger. Same message, different messenger. But the vilification of Colin Kaepernick compared to what they're doing to Kapler are two different words. But it's the same message. It's the same message. Whether you're talking about the oppressed people or the lobbyists being in bed with the politicians who put these gun laws in place and not allowing these things to happen, what is the difference? If they're holding these gun laws over people's heads and out here allowing people to get shot in these schools and all these different places because they don't want to pass legislation, you're oppressing the people by not doing any action against this. But Colin Kaepernick lost a career. was vilified, death threats all over the media, all over Fox News. Presidents were talking about him, congressional members talking about him. All these people talked about Colin Kaepernick like he wasn't. But I have yet to see or hear anybody talk about this coach for the San Francisco Giants, Mr. Gabe Kapler, excuse me, and what his stance is. Because he's standing against the national anthem. He's standing against, as you said, the flag of this country. He's standing against this country. He's making a stand against this country. Don't change the narrative now, because that's the same thing you said about Colin Kaepernick, even though that's not what he was standing for and what he was kneeling about. But this man has told you why he's not coming out for the national anthem, has told you his reason for not coming out, and has said that he doesn't feel this country is standing up to the values that it's supposed to have, and you're silent. Quiet. What's the difference? What's the difference? Melanin content. Purpose of the message. Messenger. He has a bigger platform amongst his people that work for him than Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was just a quarterback. Gabe Kapler is a manager of a baseball team. Let's see where this goes, because I sure ain't heard nothing up to this point. And I didn't do a show last. I was going to talk about this last week when it first came out. But being I didn't do a show, I said, you know what? By next week, it'll be all over the news and everything. We can just touch on it. No. It's been a week, and there's been no long discussions or anything about what this manager is choosing to do. James Battle, he's white. He can speak out, but we can't. Case in point. There's a lot of people that owe Colin Kaepernick an apology, but it'll never happen. Mass shootings. Over the last 2 weeks, Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas. Those have been the main ones in the media. Main ones. And then you had Tulsa in the hospital this week. You don't do comparisons about which one was worse, which one's this. But there's a lot of things coming out. What happened in Texas where they didn't do what they should have done and all these type of things. There's going to be investigations that come out. Okay. But our concentration has been on these three events right now. But I pulled up some data. In 2022, so far, there have been 18 mass shootings. We're hearing about 3. Where they're concentrating on 3. There have been 18. So when the gun violence, I got this from the Gun Violence Archives. And here's the thing that jumped out at me. The Gun Violence Archive defines a mass shooting as any in which at least 4 people are shot, including survivors. At least 4 people are shot, including survivors. Among the patterns we notice, family disputes are a common motivation and gang disputes are another. Every identified suspect has been a man, many under 25. Baltimore and Sacramento have experienced multiple such mass shootings this year. There's 18. I'm not going to go through all 18 because, we're on time constraints. But it's 18. 5 men and a woman were found shot to death at a Park West neighborhood home. Police believe the attack targeted specific people. That's January 23rd in Milwaukee. February 28th in Sacramento, a man shot dead his 3 daughters and their chaperone at a church during a court-approved visit. The children's mother had a restraining order against the shooter who killed himself. May 19th, Fayetteville, North Carolina, a Saturday night shootout in a hotel parking lot killed 3 people and wounded another 3. The shooting may have been linked to a fight between motorcycle gangs. Let's go to April. April 3rd in Sacramento, at least 5 shooters fired more than 100 rounds a block from the state capitol, killing 6 people, 3 men and 3 women, and wounding 12. The police described the shooting as gang-related. April 21st, Mountain View, Arkansas. A man killed his parents, another woman, and her son at two homes half a mile apart in a rural community. May 8th, Clarkston, Georgia. 3 people were shot to death and 3 others were wounded at a suburban Atlanta condo complex on Sunday night. April 27th, in Biloxi, Mississippi, a 32-year-old man killed the owner of a Broadway Inn Express motel and 2 employees in an argument over money. He fled to a neighboring town and fatally shot a 4th person. Police later found the gunman dead, barricaded inside a convenience store. Uvalde, Texas, 18-year-old gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School. Stanwood, Michigan, May 27, 51-year-old man allegedly killed his wife and her 3 young children at a home in Mecosta County before shooting himself. The man remains in critical condition. Tulsa, Oklahoma, a gunman killed his back surgeon, another doctor, a receptionist, and a visitor at a medical building. He then killed himself. And let's not forget May 14th, Buffalo, an 18-year-old avowed white supremacist killed 10 people and wounded 3 more with an assault-style weapon in a live stream attack at a supermarket. 18 mass shootings in the year of 2022 so far. And we're only in June, first week of June. Now, here's the caveat to this. The list doesn't include the at least 60 shootings that left 3 people dead, but don't technically count as mass shootings because fewer than 4 people were shot. It doesn't count shootings that wounded people without killing anybody, like one in Milwaukee that injured 17 people. And it leaves out the individual gun homicides and suicides that make up a majority of the gun violence that kills more than 100 Americans on an average day. But there's not a gun problem. It's a mental health problem. You know, it amazes me. And I shouldn't say amazes, but it amazes me. And so, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate the support. It's puzzling to me. I'm not going to say it's puzzling to me that they can take what happens with gun violence and flip the narrative to be a mental health issue when they've taken so much money away from mental health care in this country. There is no way, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to leave it alone because I don't want to get too much into this gun debate or anything like that, but I will say it this way. I served 21 and a half years in the military. And I can count how many times I had to carry a gun or shoot a gun. And it doesn't even take every finger. It doesn't even take up all 10 fingers on my hand. I was required to qualify every 2 years. If I was going to Korea, I had to qualify before I went. I never carried a gun on a regular basis because my job I didn't have to. I say that because we have more people, American citizens, who feel they have this Second Amendment right to carry their guns however they want, however you want to interpret it. But I'll put it in this concept. You have more American citizens who feel they have the right to bear arms because of what the Second Amendment says. They carry those weapons on a daily basis, who buy these AR-15s and machine guns or whatever, automatic guns, whatever you want to call them. You have more American citizens walking around every day with weapons than you do military members who are to defend this country in a time of war on a daily basis. The only people that carry a weapon on a daily basis that are active duty military are either guarding the base, guarding aircraft. They're not walking around with guns every day. They get issued the guns when they need the guns. But as American citizens, the Second Amendment that they hold so, close to their heart, where it says they have the right to bear arms, you have more American citizens walking around with guns on a daily basis than you do active duty military. Think about that for a minute. The people who are to defend this country and all enemies against enemies, foreign and domestic, only get guns issued to them when it's a need. When it's a need. But they're supposed to defend this country. But the everyday citizen has more firepower than the United States military on a daily basis. Why? Why? See, when they get into these amendments and the Bill of Rights and all this, it just how they pick and choose which ones they want to magnify and which ones they want to minimize. Your voting rights, they want to minimize. Your gun rights, they want to maximize. Your right to the freedoms that you should be able to practice no matter what your militant content, they want to minimize. But your right to bear arms, they want to maximize. Against a tyrannical government is what it says. Most of these people have these guns just because. Hunting. If you need a machine gun to hunt animals, you ain't no hunter. If you need a machine gun to hunt animals, you ain't a hunter. I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm not a gun person, but I'm just saying. Reevaluate yourself. Reevaluate yourself. We gonna get there, y'all. We gonna get there. Soon. Let's get into this. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. It's the Mind, body, and soul segment. 1,440 minutes a day. We're celebrating each day by the moments. Enjoy each and every moment that is bestowed upon you when you wake up each and every morning. Remember, waking up every morning is a gift from God. Never take it for granted. Never take it for granted. Today's Mind, Body, and Soul quote, very simple. 3 words. I get into these 3 words. 3 words. Weather the storm. Weather the storm. We see, and as I talk on here every week about all the things going on in the world around us, and we see it, and I always tell you, be aware, but don't be consumed. Be aware, but don't be consumed. But you have to look at these things that are going on around us as a storm. All these things swirling around us, hurricanes, tornadoes, thunderstorms, whatever storm you may be going to do, storm in your own personal life. You have to weather that storm. These things that are happening are not of God. Let's just be real. I'm not going to preach to you this morning, but they're not of God. You have evil people in this world that are causing these storms to happen. We have our own personal storms as far as, and just like I said, the storms that are going on around us in this world. But you got to weather the storm. The way to weather this storm is to be aware, but don't be consumed. Know that God is still in control. Stand on that. Stand firm on that. But you also have to be aware of what's going on around you. You need to be cognizant of where you go nowadays, because you don't know what the intentions of people are in your travels. You don't know who may have ill will towards you just because of how you look and where you're at a certain time. I'm not telling anybody to walk out here fearful. Be aware. Be aware, and being aware is going to help you weather the storm. You hear everyone saying our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Buffalo. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Uvalde, Texas. Our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Tulsa. And then there'll be thoughts and prayers for the next one, and the thoughts and prayers for the next one, thoughts and prayers for the next one. And the thoughts and prayers are good. I would never diminish the fact of thoughts and prayers towards people who have gone through something. But I don't want those thoughts and prayers to just become cliche each time something happens in this storm. We have to understand that these storms that are coming our way, these evils that are happening in this world around us, affect all of us somehow, some way. As you've heard me say on here many times, it's okay to not be okay. That's when our mental health comes into play, where we understand that these things going on are going to affect us. It's going to affect our mental, but we got to weather the storm because we got to fight these battles. We have these battles that we got to fight that are coming at us every day. Some people, it's hard for them to get up every morning because they don't see the goodness in the fact that they were able to open their eyes. But just like the fact that there's somebody this morning who didn't open their eyes. And that family of that individual is going through that storm. See, your storm may not be as turbulent as other folks' storms, but that doesn't minimize your storm or their storm. See, when we talk about these things, we get caught up in the fact of our lives and what we have going on around us and what we concentrate on, because if it's not affecting us, we tend to go on with our life. And in our hearts, we are thinking about those who have been affected, but it lasts a day or two. Because if it's not directly affecting us, that storm, if there's a tornado in Oklahoma and you live in New Hampshire, that storm doesn't affect you unless you have family in New Hampshire, unless you have friends in New Hampshire. But those storms are catastrophic. And all of our individual storms that many people may not even know about, that affect you on a daily basis, if it's affecting you, what you're going through, the people around you that know you and love you, your storms are affecting them as well. You got to lean on those folks. You got to talk to folks. You got to let it be known how you're feeling about these situations. Don't hold it in. Because the longer you hold that storm in that you may be going through without releasing it and talking to somebody about it, the more you allow that storm to fester and grow and start eating you from the inside out. Be aware, but don't become consumed. If you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Because a lot of times we try to weather these storms on our own. And what you find out by weathering these storms on our own, you cause more storms to build. You got to let that out. You got to get that up off you. There's a lot of people that watch these things that are going on right now that happen in Uvalde, Texas, and our hearts bleed because of the children involved. When you hear the reports of they had to use DNA tests in order to identify which children they are, it tells you the extent of evil that was in that school. We don't have to keep concentrating on the fact of what happened outside and why the police didn't respond. That's their cross to bear. That's their cross to bear. If they did not do their job, that's their cross to bear. Don't allow what they did not do to become part of your storm. That's their cross to bear. But to hear those stories, it affects us all. It affects us because anyone who has children or has nieces and nephews of that age, it's going to affect you. I don't care if it doesn't affect you, then you're not human. But be aware these things are happening around us. Weather these storms, but don't weather them alone. Reach out, talk to each other, depend on each other, confide in each other. Because one thing I know for sure, these last storms we just seen are not the last storms we will see. There'll be a storm today. There'll be a storm tomorrow. Maybe not to the full extent of these storms we've seen in Buffalo and Uvalde, Texas, or even in Tulsa, or the 18 that I talked about, these mass shootings. May not be to that extent, but storms are going to come. And you need to be mentally prepared to deal with those storms. And when I say mentally prepared, I'm not saying mentally prepared to deal with it on your own. I mean mentally prepared to sit and talk to somebody that loves you and knows you and understands you, to let them know what you're going through during your storm. See, it's easy. And I'll just put it this way. It's easy to pull an umbrella out of your car and walk into another building through the rain during a rainstorm. It's easy to open that umbrella, but it's hard to open your mouth and hard to open your heart and express how you feel while you're in the middle of a storm to somebody else. Open up. Don't deal with these storms by yourself. There's too much going on. We can blow them off. But just the fact that we see and hear these things are happening, they're going to impact you. But don't fight these battles by yourself. And one thing you also need to understand, from my opinion, make sure God's in the midst of it while you're going through this storm. Make sure you go down on your knees and let God know the storm you're going through so he can help you through. Lean on him. Lean on him. Don't go through these storms by yourself. Those that try to weather these storms by themselves, usually never come out of the storm. Remember that. Those that try to go through these storms by themselves usually don't come through the storm. The storm overtakes them. Be cognizant, be aware, and don't be too proud to ask for help. There's a lot of things going on that we're seeing. These storms are going to come. Just be ready. Stand firm on that faith and lean on God, family, and friends. Let's go ahead and wrap this up for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. June 9th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what time that Central Mountain is. Y'all know, y'all can figure that out. Tune in. Pay attention. Listen to what evidence has been found. Listen to what has happened to cause our government to be in the disarray that it is. You know, the one thing I'll say about this, and then I'm going to leave it alone, because if you're going to watch, you're going to watch. If you're not, you're not. But the one thing I'll say about this is if you truly care about the direction of where this country is going, you'll tune in. Not for the politicalization of what's going on, but to understand how things are happening out of eyesight of most of us as U.S. citizens that we never, ever hear about. Who's doing it, how they're doing it, and the big question, why they're doing it. The main word to that is power and control. Power and control. If you control it, you have the power. If you have the power, you can control it. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all again next week. I'll holler. Peace.